Hey everyone, it's me, Matthew. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Last week we talked about Noah, a man God found favor with before God decided to destroy the world with a flood. We also learned that God made a promise to never destroy the world with a flood again. And, as a reminder, God put a rainbow in the sky to help us remember. Remember. Anyways, this week we're talking about the Tower of Babel. It's going to be interesting. Let's go! Bible! Story! Time! Bible story time! A little backstory. Noah and his family get off the ark and start populating the world again. But sin that had entered the world was leading the charge, unfortunately. The people began to follow their own way, thinking their way was better than God's way. This led them to having bold actions and forming nations. And these nations were often self-seeking, self-centered, and only out to glorify themselves. They were very prideful, and this pride led them to think that they were better than God. Which leads us to the story today, the Tower of Babel. Now I'd ask you to stop and pause the video to read Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9, the story of the Tower of Babel. We're not going to stop the video, so please, pause. Hopefully you pause the video. Isn't it interesting that the whole world had one language? It sort of blows my mind that they had one language. The nations rallied together and they decide to build this great city and a tower that reaches to heaven. Now they only did this to glorify themselves and bring honor to themselves. They defied God and settled when God told them to go out and fill the earth. But instead, they built this great tower. They were very proud of what they could accomplish. And they had a very self-focused motivation in building this city and building this tower. They wanted to be the center. They wanted people to look to them and not to God. And this is a dangerous choice they were making, because this choice led to death, a life without God. Question: what is pride? Is it good? Is it bad? Talk about it. Pride. I think it's an experience we all have. Right? Pride, as defined in the good old dictionary, is a satisfaction of one's abilities or accomplishments. And I think just enough pride is a good thing. It's good to feel satisfied for accomplishing something or doing something or having the ability to do something. I think it's good. But I also think it could be a bad thing, where you start to think of yourself better than others. Or maybe you start to solely rely on yourself and forget about what other people think or what God thinks. And like the people here in Genesis 11, they've let their pride go too far. It's become a bad thing. They've started to rely on their own way and thinking themselves better than God. They've started to believe that lie, that their way is better than God's way. I know I've had moments in my life where I've let my pride get in the way. I've thought myself better than others, and I've thought I was right and others were wrong. And luckily, thankfully, God has always stepped into those moments in my life and humbled me, much like he does here in chapter 11. He goes down and sees the city, and he sees that their problem is pride. They think their way is better than his. And he confuses their language and scatters the people across the world. In an act of love, he humbles the people. Now, when it says scatter people across the earth, my mind just goes crazy. It's like, I've got a big imagination, if you didn't know. And I always scattered. Like, what does he do? He just picks them up and shakes them out? of his hand across the world, or does he sit there and he's like, you go to Asia, you Europe, you Africa, right? What does he do? Does he just teleport? He's like, you go there, you go there. What does he do? I'm just curious. Anyways, I digress. I'll leave you with this final thought, a question for the week to talk about. Have you had a moment in your life where you let pride get in the way? Maybe it's out of stubbornness, or maybe you thought you were right and others are wrong. Or maybe you find yourself just thinking you're better than everyone else. I think it'd be a good thing to talk about. So, until next week, I'll see you later. Bye!